creative people. I just wanted to mention real quick, just because I just got this news about 15 minutes ago. I think it's relevant because of the two people that I am talking to here, and hopefully because of me. But one of my old pastors just passed away about 10 minutes ago. And he Preston, Oldsmar, Florida. He's probably one of the best examples of a man practicing what he preaches, whether that is in his, with his faith and things like that, or with his just everyday stuff. A man sticking to his word, being honest, being legit. And I would say I definitely strive to be that way, and I would say that Mike has been that way. He's pretty on, whether you love him or hate him. He's honest, and he's himself, and that's one of the reasons why Mike has been really, Mike's stuff was a big impact on me growing up, because he has like a wide range of, just like Austin. Austin has a wide range of just all kinds of things. A lot of people, and it's funny because a lot of people that do know him for his Zombies Are Humans Too, and they know him for Stanley the Snowman, and they know him for working on a kind of popular Iron Man novel that was like a return of Bob Layton and different things like at that time. That was pretty significant. So I actually want to see Austin combine those three things and do Stanley the Iron Man zombie sometime would be great, I think.
Well, so many people have asked me, when are we going to see like Zombie Snowman? I'm like, well, yeah, we could do that.
Wouldn't they just be? They just wouldn't have any snow. They'd just be like this. They'd be like a stick or something.
Something like that. Yeah, yeah. You could have like the snow melting off them, and that's all red.
Yeah,
yeah. It'd be two pieces of coal and a carrot on the ground.
Yeah, pretty much. Just you do a film on it and just have them rolling over like chasing people. But I wanted to say that because I really feel like that's one of the great things about Austin and also co-host Mike, but it's so relevant these days, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of that that desire for that authenticity and honesty, as we get more into automation and AI and all the different things that are going on, more technological, and I think people are gonna want to go outside more and want to see and get stuff that's more real to kind of balance that out. When we first met years ago, we connected pretty quick, and we made plans to go to a coffee shop where he stole an idea from me. And,
did he pay for the coffee?
I think he might have. I think he might have. But yeah, he's a great guy, and he has a lot of kids.
Yeah, I've got 3 daughters and a stepson.
Yeah. Yeah, he's kind of like an NBA player.
Back to drinking beverages here. Yeah, 3 daughters with my ex-wife, stepson with my now wife. My real wife, not starter wife, real wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4 kids, all adults. Yeah. Thank you, Jesus.
Well, Austin, I see you're both an inker and an illustrator.
Yes.
And I assume that you've been illustrating your own titles.
You know, Mike, it's funny. When I was much younger, really getting in, I did full illustrating as well. But I was very slow. I'm very meticulous in the stuff that I did. I couldn't get the speed right to get real work on a consistent basis. But I enjoyed inking a lot because, back in the 90s, you finished the page, it was an inker. Color was really an afterthought. Color really didn't come into play until image and everything kind of branched out in 97, 98. So I enjoyed inking a lot more because I could work with really good artists and good stories. That was kind of like my thing. And I found
Mike, you would like his inking a lot. He's a very good inker.
I try. Brush inking's like, if you want to work for Marvel, you have to learn how to use a brush. That's primarily what I've done, except when I did Iron Man stuff, it was quill all the way.
I think that's good advice for any inker. You inked Bob Layton, right?
Yeah. 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 And that was not intimidating at all. It was, you know,
Yeah.
Bob was great. Bob's, you know, and I'm sure, Mike, you're the same way. You don't even think about it. It's muscle memory. He's just inking, holding paper up on a quill by hand, just kind of doing whatever and looking at it and putting it aside, or giving me pages to do and just doing the thing. But gleaning and that I got from Bob confidence in my own ability, and tools were secondary. Whereas a lot of people lean on their tools first and question their talent. You know what I mean? When you get to a certain point, year after year after year, the skill sets kind of come out. Tools are secondary to enhance what hopefully your talent is what's bringing to the table to begin with. You know what I mean? So,
Who is your favorite penciler to ink?
mm. There's this gentleman named Carlos, and I can't pronounce his last name. He did Evil Dead 2. Really rich, organic, lots of blacks, lots of textured work. And I just, you know, as a brush inker, that was like full on, you know, because you had organic backgrounds, you had non-organic backgrounds, you had great characters, a lot of shading and whatnot. So for me, he was absolutely fantastic. Glenn Aldman, he did stuff for DC. I did a couple of stories with him for Advent Comics, and that was more superhero-ish. One was War Guard, and the other one was Alliance of Evil. So those were my two favorite ones. Inking nowadays, back in the day, Bob, you know, for mainstream, Bob was always my favorite.
How many hours would it take to do a page?
And back in the day when I was really good, I could do 1.5 pages a day if it was really, really, you know, heavy, a lot of backgrounds. If it was non-backgrounds, I could do 2 or so full fit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you had to, you know, if you wanted to
yeah.
make money, that's kind of what you had to do. So,
Yep.
Have you done any penciling recently?
I've done cover work. I haven't done interiors, but I've done cover work. My zombie series, I did an exclusive, but the zombie stories were written by Jonathan Hendrick and actor Joe Davidson. So I did a cover for that. I've done some cover work for 10th Muse back in the day, and different cover stuff. But interiors, I haven't done anything interior wise till late 1977 to 1979. It's been a while. I started back in 1994, Mike. I signed my first contract.
You write too, don't you?
Yes. My first book was back in 95 with Allied Comics. It was called Seventh Millennium. And then I really got into the art side, but I was writing stuff. 10 years ago, I got more into writing, and that's where Stanley came about. Stanley the Snowman. It's an all-age series. Zombies is a horror series. I have a faith-based angel series called Divine Retribution, which was with Second Sight, but they've kind of shifted to just straight horror. So either I'll put it out myself, or I've got a couple of publishers interested, and we'll kind of see what they want to do.
I've always found the close relationship between horror and religion interesting, and one need only point to The Exorcist to know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
and I think that one of the reasons The Exorcist maintains his position as possibly the scariest movie ever made, because it taps into something deep within our psyche, a longing for something larger than ourselves. And the ability to convince you that there's something out there that's menacing as well as benevolent, that's out of our control.
Yeah, no, I agree. It makes you broaden your scope. You know, you think about the good and evil. You don't really put a focus on it, and that really kind of put a quote unquote face to that. And a lot of people grew up with religion, whatever,
right.
but a lot of people have hard time quantifying their own faith, figuring out their own real personal relationship with God, and how that can relate to walking through their life. You know what I mean? I will say with my comic books, I was so worried about making it that I made, you know, mistakes and bad choices, you know, because I was just trying to, you know, live to other people's expectations. And And then when I got into film, I'm just walking the path you set before me. I'm enjoying absolutely everything about it. Highs, lows, droughts, bountifulness, everything. So it's been helping my journey.
When you write, how do you write? Do you create an outline first?
I come up with an idea, and then if it sticks with me for a few days, I'm like, well, think of something. I'll write the idea down. I'll figure out how it wants to end. I have to figure out how it ends. So I'll figure out a good ending with the idea. I'll think of an interesting character. I'll think of a good conflict. And then the outline itself is, beginning, middle, end. Where's the conflict going to come from? I used to do sticky notes when writing out my stories because to me that wasn't permanent. I could take things off and switch things around.
Right, move them around, yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like writing in just pencil. You can always erase if you need to. Like with Stanley, I knew what I wanted to be about. It was the commercialism, compared to traditional values going on. I didn't want to do a reindeer or a Santa, so I did a snowman. And the main character is based on my 3 daughters. So when creating characters with stories is really important. You got to have a good backstory. You have to have an understanding of not only what the character is, but why it's doing what it's doing, right? Why it fits in the world that you're creating. So I think of these things before I really kind of set the journey down. But the nice thing for me is I know how it's going to end, and I just kind of backfill.
Often I don't know how the story's going to end, except that it has to be morally satisfying. John Gardner wrote a book called On Moral Fiction, which he argues that the reader wants to see evil punished and good rewarded. And if that doesn't happen, then the reader will often feel cheated, unless it's a book about a scoundrel, like the Flashman books or some of Cormac McCarthy's books. They're so fascinating because of the characters he describes, even though they're totally evil, you can't put them down. But nobody can subsist on a steady diet of that. And sometimes the good does not overcome, but evil is punished. And I think of the ending to Spartacus when Kirk Douglas is crucified on the Appian Way, and his wife passes by with their child and holds the child up for Spartacus to see, so that he dies knowing that he's accomplished something, and he's left something good in his wake.
Mm-hmm. I try to make my protagonists not 100% evil, and honestly, that really comes from Star Wars. Like if Darth Vader can be redeemed in some form or fashion, then pretty much anyone can, to an extent. So to me, and that makes the character more well-rounded. But there's something to be said about truly, really bad characters getting their comeuppance too. I mean, there's also the satisfaction of that. You know what I mean? And getting the happy ending. But what's interesting is that there's some happy endings that aren't exactly what's expected. I try to make stories of genres that first interests me and isn't quite what's been done before. I try to find something a little bit different. So Zombies Were Human too it's all about telling zombie stories before and how they became zombies. It's kind of like the origin stories of zombies. I came up with the idea. I was at Wizard World Atlanta, and I was having lunch, and these nice people came in. I was chatting them up, and they were the first featured zombies of The Walking Dead. They were the zombies in the back of the Entertainment Weekly cover with Rick Grimes, the gun and everything. That was them, and they were used in the first season. And I said, man, it'd be cool if you knew who you were before you became zombies. And that's how the idea first started. So
that's a good idea.
How many do you have now in that series? How many volumes?
We got 2 volumes, and volume 3 we'll do the Kickstarter next month. So we'll finish the series. 150 pages, man. Yeah. And the nice thing is the zombie stories are done by different art and writer teams. It follows the same form. It follows the storyline. I agree to every single storyline so it fits the overall narrative. But I wanted to give a chance to other people who wanted to do a horror story that haven't had a chance to. Pros, newcomers, authors. I've got actors. I've got directors who wanted to do stuff. They're all in these series. So
zombies are more popular than ever.
It's funny how it's kind of, I mean, The Walking Dead has done quite a lot to really bring that out, but it makes you look around for other zombie stuff. And now you're looking at movies, there's tons of zombie video games. There's all, I mean, it's crazy. And it's its own subgenre too. Like there's horror and then there's like zombie horror fans and they are die-hard fans.
Have you seen World War Z?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Some people didn't like it. I loved it. I thought it was great, but I'm a big
I want to see the extended version or whatever that they did, because that's the one that they've really been, I know the people behind it were really raving about more.
Yeah, because it took more from the actual book itself. It really kind of makes it fits in the cracks better. Yeah.
That movie takes off with a blast and never lets down.
Oh yeah, it's full throttle. Yeah, 100%. Yep. Same with.
Did either of you read the book or any of it?
Yeah. I read about half of it. I wanted to read, some of it before the movie.
Right.
And the book was fantastic. So, and then the movie, I mean, you can't make, but they did a really good job with it,
yeah.
I thought.
Yeah, very impressive. Some of the visuals, I don't know how they did that.
Oh, yeah.
Like when the zombies are trying to break into Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Piling.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So that's where it helps to have like big name people involved with it. And then you get a bigger budget and you can have better special effects. And everything else.
It's interesting. Like when you have these sort of movies and you find out it started 4 years ago, them making it, the filming of the actors and everything will take maybe 3 to 4 months, but the CGI takes 2+ years because of all the stuff that has to be built. I didn't fully understand until getting into the film business just what is, I mean, and I've only been in microcosms, like it's more TV than film. Like I've done for Peacock and Apple Plus, I've been lucky enough as an actor, but making films like feature films is just, it's a whole other animal. And I don't know. First of all, I don't know how you can get the money to make this, which is in itself. Then you get the money, you can make the film. Then you got to sell the film. And then even if you sell the film, it might take a while to put it out. There's so many things that have to go right to actually get it in front of people. It's just incredible.
Yeah. I'm actually excited about, I mean, I'm not that excited, but I am excited. I am excited because I always see like the potential. I get disappointed so many times because that's like the potential is, and then it's like way short of like what the potential is. But like just all the different distribution channels and things that have opened up since the pandemic, and I think a lot of it because movie theaters and everybody else trying to survive and keep keep going. So they've been more willing to work with these other distribution channels. Like I know, like the Sound of Freedom or whatever was like #1 at the box office was released via other distribution channels other than normal for movie theaters, and it was still, unlike a lot of them in the past, it was still successful enough and filled enough theaters and did well enough that. It's like, wow, this is actually a legit, now we're actually seeing some successful movies that are distributed in a different way. It's almost like Kickstarter in some ways. Like now you're seeing, people funding and making all kinds of money and getting, and more important than the money is just how many people, 1,000 people, 2,000 people backing a comic or graphic novel or whatever. It just was impossible, years ago. Unless you go back to the earlier indie days in the 80s and stuff when you had the explosion and everybody was just looking for everything different.
We're going to go see a movie next week. The first time I've been in a theater since House of Gucci, which I enjoyed.
Oh, wow.
We're going to go, a friend of mine and I are going to go see Equalizer 3.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I would actually like to see Oppenheimer in the theater. But I know now Mike has a deep hatred of Christopher Nolan. So, but
no, that's not true at all. I just don't think he's a great director. I have nothing against the man personally. I would let him buy me coffee.
I will say, I think I think he makes some extremely visually stunning films, and there's a few of them that really shake my head. They're a little too heavy, a little too much.
Yeah.
Oppenheimer looks really, really. I'm a big fan of Robert Downey Jr. and Chile. From an actor standpoint, I want to go see it because the acting and all that is just incredible. Interstellar, I got completely lost. I didn't know what that was.
My daughter loves that movie. Like, she
Really?
loves Interstellar.
I liked it too, although it is a slog. But some of his movies, especially the ones where he's jumping back and forth in time, leave me confused. Because Howard Hawks said, "Flashbacks, who needs them?"
Yeah.
I like a linear story, but I understand the need for flashbacks occasionally. It all depends on how they're done.
Yeah, like Tenet was that was the same sort of thing. But again,
that's one that you'll enjoy the more you see it. Honestly, like the second time I watched it, I was like, oh, because it's so
right.
hard for your brain to connect with and understand everything that you're seeing. That so I'm looking forward to the third time, man.
Did you all go see The Flash?
Not on purpose, no.
You mean you may have seen it?
I have almost watched it on Max.
That was a close call.
I know. I was like, no, stop, pause.
Wait, I liked it.
All right.
Did you?
But I'm thankful for these movies to come out because I've been dreaming for years for these movies to come out. So I'm thankful that they're being made. I went to go see it because I'm a huge Michael Keaton fan and I wanted to see his Batman. That's why I thought
it's a good reason.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. I love Supergirl. I thought she was good. Ezra, I don't think he's a good Flash. I've never liked him as a Flash.
I'm not aware of him popping off and deliberately insulting his audience. You don't get any points for that because it's something that a wise actor would never do. But it seems to be part of our age now. If you remember the classic movie stars, Cary Grant, Julia Roberts, Marilyn Monroe, they would never dream of making a bold political statement that would irritate half their audience. But now it's just par for the course.
There's a different way of thinking. There's a different way of trying to be a movie star. That's how, but studios crafted that. They drove the narrative back then.
That's true.
Because, you're under contract with them for 5-6 pictures. It wasn't, you sign up for a certain amount of money, 5-6 pictures. You got a regular paycheck each week. It wasn't an upfront. It was a whole different ball game. But I agree. But that's generational. That's just everyone thinks that.
That's right.
And
the technology, technology has caused so many changes too. As you were saying, how we view films now. It's almost that every film is an independent film in a way.
Yeah, and everyone is a movie critic, whether they've seen it or not.
That's right.
Try to derail things when they really shouldn't have. Like, I want to go see the Blue Beetle. I'm good friends with Cully, and it looks really good, and I've heard really great things, but people are trying to pan it. They're trying to put different narrative to it, which is too bad, But unfortunately, DC has a bad track record, so there you go.
We have a whole generation or two that have been raised on video games and have bypassed comics completely.
Yeah, between that and YouTube and watching gameplay and whatnot, and then they watch the TV shows now, and that's where the cosplayers are making it because of TV shows and movies, not because of the comics they read. Not anymore,
right?
And so there's a complete disconnect. If TV shows or films really would direct people back into comic books or into the different storylines, and people can do it on their own. They get smartphones, but people are lazy. They just want instant, access to everything. Spoon feed them a little bit. Help the industry that you've made so much money on. In my opinion, it wouldn't take that much longer in the credits to kind of show, numbers of the books and when it was published and whatnot, and so people can kind of look it up. or have QR codes so people can just use your phone and click it and they can look on their own time if they want to. That's how comic books are now made. Writers aren't promoted to editors anymore. They're hired off the street from, they got 4 degrees, and then
Literally.
These are stepping stones to get the real job they want. That's pretty much
they could sell comics in lobbies, and they've been talking about that for half century. But somehow they've never got their shit together to do that. It seems so obvious. You have a big tentpole comic-based movie, put a spinner rack in the lobby, but the theaters could never come to an agreement with the publishers. And now both theaters and publishers are struggling. I think they would support each other in this way.
Or not even that. You buy a ticket, right? You're paying, it's like $10, $12. You spend $15, you're getting a ticket and a comic book.
Yeah.
Good idea.
As soon as you walk in the door, bam, here's your comic and here's your ticket.
Some of the comic stores and things could promote, show you your movie ticket, you get a free comic or get $5, with simple research. Look at how much it takes to make a comic. Look at how much it takes to make a movie. It's a lot cheaper to make a comic. And if you're wanting to set things up and to test things out or to, and build an audience and kind of hammer things out, then comics are a great way to do it. Example too, although I didn't really care for the comic that much, like Big Hero 6 came out as a comic first from Marvel and stuff. Most people didn't even read it, even though it was by really great writers and artists and everything. But then it was like turned into this huge hit of a movie. Like they learned their lessons, they changed things around, they did, and it's like, we probably would have gotten a lot worse movie, or they might not have even made the movie if it wasn't, developed and turned into the much better thing it was. From a business standpoint, it seems like a smart move. Like, why would you not, do this? Even if you're putting, a good writer on it, crappy artists or whatever, like, why would you not at least try?
I know producers who are leading with a graphic novel to gin up interest in the film.
Oh yeah. So Austin, tell us, because I don't know how many people know, like, how did you get the acting bug or directing bug from doing comics and stuff? Yeah,
all through high school, I was in theater, I was in musicals. I was voted most theatrical in high school, but I like to draw. I love comic books. I lived in upstate New York, so I didn't think there was any real way, unless I wanted to go to New York and do theater or watch off Broadway. There wasn't really anything for it. I lived in Utica. In Syracuse, you had Bart Sears, you had Todd Zago, you had, all these really, Roger Stern, all these amazing comic book creators. So I had the ability to meet them beforehand and talk with them, and I brought samples. I got some good feedback from Bart and everything, and encouraged me to get things started. And so I went back, told mom and dad, hey, that's what I want to do. And they're like, well, you should have a backup plan just in case your dream dies. So I got into graphic illustration. So my backup plan while doing comic books was first a graphic designer, then I was an art director, and I was a creative director, and I was lucky to work for Disney and Universal and Warner Brothers and everything for about 20 years. So, but yeah, comic books was, and then I retired for my backup plan. I was going to teach, and then a buddy's like, hey, you want to be a ghoul in my movie? I'm like, absolutely.
Like,
hey,
boy, do I.
Hey, do you want to do this? And I'm like, how are you guys doing this? And they just explained to me that there's this whole, you can make movies anywhere. I just thought either New York or Los Angeles, you could do it. Yeah. I'm like, what? So like, how do I do this? How do I get involved? How do I get started? And they're like, well, just start auditions. Just start trying. So talked to the wife and we prayed on it. She's like, well, let's try 3 years. Skip 3 years, see what happens. So that's kind of started doing stuff and got commercials to get an agent, to get better commercials, to get better agents. And I started getting some movies and started getting some money. And then funny enough, in 2021 is when I started really leveling up, and I booked a Netflix film. And, now I've done like stuff for Oxygen, Peacock, Amazon, Netflix, and Apple Plus. There's a new TV series, man, starring Vince Vaughn called Bad Monkey. And just apparently Atlanta, Georgia is like as big as
Oh yeah.
Hollywood, if not bigger. I had no idea.
Yep.
So
Yep.
you know,
That's where a lot of the Marvel stuff is filmed.
oh yeah, all of it in this whole studio. They're building sound stages and everything there. So I just kind of fell into it. It was always the what if, like, man, what if I could? What if I could? And then I'm like, I'm not going to do what if, but we'll try it. And like I said before, I'm following the path God put before me. I'm enjoying the highs and lows. You know, sometimes I'll audition for something. I'm like, kind of like to have this one. Can I have this one? Maybe. You know, like I read for Clint Eastwood last month. Really wanted that one. That would have been cool. You know, I did one for Denzel Washington. I've done one for Robert De Niro about a month and a half
What
ago.
did you do for Denzel?
For Denzel, it was a piano lesson.
Is that the name of the film?
Yeah, it's based off a Pulitzer Prize play called The Piano Lesson.
By August Wilson?
Exactly. Yeah, so I read for a supporting role in that. So,
did you get it?
No, I did not, unfortunately.
Sorry to hear that.
It's okay. But you know what? Denzel and Samuel, they looked at my tape. So to me, that is
yeah.
And the fact that Clint Eastwood saw my tape, that was a win. And it's interesting because people that have booked the roles that I haven't, I've got a similar look to them, but they have a whole lot more credits than I do. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. They've been doing it a lot longer. I'll get there. But the fact that I'm in the room, that's a big thing. So I'm very thankful.
That's great.
Yeah.
Good attitude.
And like you said, I mean, working in comics and other things. People that do that have done stuff in different industries. You kind of take what you've learned from the other ones, and you're like, yeah, you know, I mean, there's gonna be highs and lows. There's gonna be bad, mean critics and different things. It's like, part of the game.
Well, it's made me enjoy creating comic books more. It's put the creative back into it, and then by doing more writing in the comic books, it's helped me write better screenplays for films. You know, I've directed about 5 or 6 now. I have a dark comedy horror called The Killer and the Dead. It's a short film. The trailer has 10,000 views. It's getting picked up by festivals. People want to make a feature out of it. It mashes a slasher and zombies all together. So you have a slasher film that in the beginning was started with a zombie apocalypse or apocalyptic event. So that's fun. I have a faith-based movie called Waiting on Faith that we're going to make into a feature. I have producers that are looking at, and we're talking money, hopefully, for next year. We can get things started.
Like, even if you envision a larger film, is it smart to do? It's like, well, let's do the short film as a proof of concept that we can hopefully get sold into something bigger. Or is it better just to treat the short film as its own thing?
You treat it as your own thing, but if anyone wants to get started for directing and whatnot, work on a set and learn every facet of how things work, from a lowly PA, not lowly, PAs are pretty good, but PAs to
you heard it here, PAs.
A grip, gaffer, continuity. I mean, all the different things. Try to do it or shadow someone to do it. If you have an understanding of the different parts that go behind making a film, then when you go to write and direct it, you're thinking of all these different things that you have to put in place. As well as for an actor, it helped a lot because it makes me very easy to work with, because I have the understanding when I'm delivering lines, what kind of volume I want to go. If I'm going higher, let them know I'm going to be raising so I'm not blowing out their ear. If the light source is here, is it better for me to shoot this way? If you're a solution to their problems, they're going to want you on set more. That's it. But working behind the scenes, doing behind work and making of the film, I learned so much more about the whole filmmaking. Starting in short films is definitely the way to go. But if you feel like you want to go ahead and do a feature, go ahead and do it. My first film was called Love, Hate, The Amazing Life of a Comic Book Artist. I know, Mike, I dug really deep for it. And I had a buddy of mine help me direct it. I did it for a film challenge because I never wrote a screenplay before. So I wanted to be able to write a screenplay, make some sort of film, and I did it. And it came out fairly good. And then my first one actually directed You're not supposed to work with kids or dogs. Well, I did that.
Yeah.
Why not? At night,
Yeah.
check all the boxes, learn what not to do. And that's really it. You have to understand, make something and you're finishing is the most important thing, right, in film.
Yeah.
And then you learn from it, and hopefully you're going to improve and do a little bit better and get a little bit of money. And then just, if you have ideas, shoot something, and then just go out and shoot it again and try to learn from it. Like doing artwork. You're not going to get better by just drawing one day, right, Mike? You have to draw every day. Lots of memory after a while.
Sure. That's why I advise writers and artists to always have a pad with them and a pen at all times. Do you have a website?
I used to have a website. I do not have a website. I rely on Facebook and everything right now. I'm on Instagram. I try to do a lot on Instagram. I do Facebook, not huge fans. I'm on YouTube. I'm trying to do better on YouTube. I'm not a self-deprecating sort of person. I don't like to talk a lot about myself. I just kind of just do my thing, but I know I need to promote. I need to do stuff. I need to put myself out there.
Well, you give a good interview, and doing shows like this is important.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I like your shows. I don't get asked very often. This was a lot of fun.
And I think Mike and I would definitely both agree too that finishing is so important. And especially like you said, there's other people who got similar parts that were very similar to you, and but they have a longer credit list, and it's like that's how you get a longer credit list, is actually finishing stuff and adding your list. And I say this to people all the time because I know it's hard for people who are not really arrogant and prideful to sit there and promote themselves, because it's unnatural to do that. But you have to do it to build confidence in the people that you're trying to reach. It's not really about, it's not so much about you. It's just letting you know, yes, I have this much experience. I have this, just to let them know that, you can trust me. I'm going to entertain you, which is funny because Austin sent me a nice long list of all the comic stuff he had done in Messenger. And I asked him if I could get a blood sample too. Those are the best places for people to find you, probably Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, if they want just to find out basic stuff, just Google my name. You can find out stuff between film and comic book stuff. If you want to reach me, Austin Janowsky is really the best way. And just, I want to tell people, whether it's comic books, whether it's all that, 95% of people don't finish.
Yeah.
And they always say, what if? So if you're trying to be a comic book artist, finish regardless if you think it's great or not, and then try to improve upon that. Go outside and draw trees, draw backgrounds. You'll make a good living doing backgrounds, even though there's a lot of programs that do it for you now. As an actor, my mentor said, know your lines, be truthful, do your version. And if the part's yours, there's not much you can do to not have it. If it's not your part, it doesn't matter what you do, it's not yours. So it's just one of those things. That goes with comic books too. You can have great stuff, but if it doesn't click, if it just doesn't fit, then it doesn't matter. And just, it's a marathon, man. It's a marathon. Next year's 30 years for me. I don't. Mike is a little bit longer, right?
I'm so old. I saw Hendrix.
Yeah.
So you saw when you're 3 is what you're saying? Yeah, you're 3.
I've been working in comics since '81.
Goodness. So just a little while.
I did want to mention too, again, so you had the Kickstarter for
Zombies for Humans Volume 3 will start launching September 28th, or at the end of September, but and so we'll have that. Stanley will be in bookstores, or you can on Amazon or Walmart or anything like that now. It's 120 some odd pages. It's a complete story. I made it so when you open it, you can write your last name. So for it's for the whole family, and I put some of my own family traditions after it. I have my great grandmother's sugar cookie recipe in there. And,
right.
I made it so kids could read to the parents, parents read to the kids, and maybe start a new family tradition for the holidays. That's why I want to make it.
Mike, do you have anything coming up that's going to be coming out?
We're going to launch Florida Man graphic novel #2 in a couple of weeks, and Bronze Star is available right now. Bronze Star is a supernatural Western drawn by Pat Broderick,
Right.
It's the greatest work of his career. Everybody who has seen the art has had their head explode. You can take a look at bronzestarcomic.com.
Yeah, Pat is one of the nicest comic book creators you're ever going to find. He's a straight shooter too, super, super good. Him and his wife are great. So he just went through surgery for an aneurysm last week, and he's doing fine so far. So thank God for that.
Yeah, I focused so much on the Western part when Mike has said stuff about Bronze Star. I kept forgetting the supernatural part until I started seeing some of the pages. I'm like, oh yeah, it's like, yeah, there's some real supernatural stuff in here. So if you're a fan of horror or supernatural westerns and things like that, definitely check it out. It's like they said, I mean, it is really good, really good art, and really surprising story as what usually comes from Mike.
I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, no, well, thank you.
Yep. So we will see you next time. Okay.
All right.
So I'll of course, yeah, now it's not working again. Yeah, I'll